Time for another mailbag, John. Welcome to another weekend mailbag, everybody. You know, mailbag's a little different, John. It's a little raw.
Raw and uncut, guy.
Raw and real.
Kind of like Pimp My Ride.
Oh, call back to the last podcast episode. I like it. We do this thing it's more casual, but we do mention the sponsors, mybookie.ag, promo code HAM1. We appreciate them. And geology.com/ham, 40% off. GEOLOGIE. Get your skincare routine down. Geology.com/ham.
What did Jay-Z say? Dirt on my shoulders? Well, how about the dirt on your face? Wash that dirt on your face off.
Remember, there was a time when you were doing the dust, getting the dust
doing
off.
Dirt on your shoulders, yeah.
So that was before everyone just took 3 fingers and pounded into the side of their temple to indicate that they hit a 3-pointer.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here's how you get into the mailbag. You leave us a review on iTunes, and in that review, you ask a question.
Pretty self-explanatory. Not very difficult to do.
Mailbag is stuffed today, John. USPS is delivering only like 3 days this week, so we got a lot of mail to get through here.
I just realized actually earlier today, I ordered some Nike golf pants. Same exact pants, multiple pairs. One fits perfectly. The other is a completely different size, yet it's the same size as the other one. It just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
And it's a weird color. But it was one of those that I immediately go online, get the refund, right? And they just, Nike gives you the refund, and then you just have to send it. And then it's been like, I think past the 60 days, I don't even think I sent it. It's just been in my back seat. Key with doing a return is always put it in your front seat so you remember. If you put it in the back seat, sometimes if you don't have kids or whatever, sometimes you don't look in the back seat for a while.
Wow, see, but you don't live in San Francisco. I put anything in my front seat, it's a break-in.
Yeah.
You got to go trunk.
Well, I mean, even out here in the mean streets of Walnut Creek, break-ins too. I park now in my garage just every time, no matter where I go now. So you can just forget about shit in your back seat.
Okay, well, front seat works then.
Yeah.
Good quality control there, Nike.
Yeah, I mean, they're good with that.
No, but I mean, you bought 2 things the same size that don't fit the same? Doesn't shock me, honestly.
Yeah, that's part of internet shopping. The great part about internet shopping is it's very, very easy nowadays to send it back, so I don't even have a problem with it. It's the Amazons, the Nikes, they make it very, very consumer friendly to send back. You just have to remember to send it back.
Maybe you don't. All right.
Yeah.
You can buy them from John on Craigslist. $20. First one there.
They're like a red purple. I don't even know what color they are.
Eggplant. Okay, here we go. Mailbags. Let's get through. Let's dive in. First up, Oshkosh Niner fan. Great pod, guys. Keep it up. 2 questions. I just started binge watching Billions. I'm early in season 2. Do you root for Axe or Chuck in the show? Mandatory Niner QB question. Do you think Davis Mills is a fit? What round do you think he gets drafted? Also, if the Niners don't go all in for a QB in round 1, what position group they should they pick from or just go BPA? First up, I remember when you and I talked about Billions the other day. I binge watched at the beginning of the pandemic. I mentioned it to you, and I'd forgotten it's an old show, and so your memory was not quite as clear as mine because I just watched the whole thing, 10 months ago. Do you have? Are you Axe or Chuck?
I would lean. I mean, Axe. I probably. I think Chuck a little fraudulent. If you once you get through the entire series, you realize he kind of goes for good guy, bad guy, good guy. I'm a big fan of some of the role players. Dollar Bill. A big fan of Dollar Bill. Big fan of Chuck's dad. Like Chuck's dad, just a great character, just a fantastic character. Chuck's wife, I'm kind of lukewarm on. I'm actually much more invested on a lot of the role players in the show as much as I am Axe.
So I think you nailed it.
How about Axe's wife just disappears from the show?
Well, a couple things halfway here. Because Chuck's not. You don't root for Chuck.
Yeah.
You don't. But Axe is like a shitty dad. Like you don't. There are some things he. I think that what they do that's great with the show is sometimes you're rooting for each of them. Like that's what they do. That's amazing. Is you're like, no, I hate that guy. No, I hate that guy.
Yeah.
My favorite character by far is Wags. Axe is number 2.
Yeah, he's remarkable.
The best character. Like you said, Dollar Bill's a great character. Chuck's dad's just a lunatic.
Yeah.
I mean, a piece of crap, but fantastic. God, who are the other great characters? I mean, some of the Maffei, that guy, he's kind of funny.
Yeah, he's
Dan
he's
Soder. He's a stand-up comedian.
The dude that becomes Chuck's boss, who's like an older guy from Texas.
Oh yeah,
that
guy
who wears the boots. He's a great character.
He's a great character.
The show just has fantastic character. I don't find I wouldn't say my like on a side. I just am addicted to the characters in the show.
It's a
Probably
great show.
lean axe.
When's it coming back?
It's a hell of a question. Hopefully soon.
All right. Niner question. Do you think Davis Mills is a fit? You and I, not even as part of the podcast, were arguing, talking about this the other day. I think he is a fit. I think he's value. I think he's got a great arm. He's athletic. You're worried because of his injury history. Has only played 11 games. But if you could get him in the fourth round, I would put him. He'd be in the 98th percentile of the talent that you can get in the fourth round. I'm part of me is kind of afraid. I don't. Every time I say someone might take him in the third, then it's just so risky to take him in the third. I think if you could get him in the fourth round, that's a value pick.
What if you go RG3 Kirk Cousins and you trade up, you get Justin Fields, and you also take this guy in the fourth round?
Part of that in theory, it sounds good, but the problem was the coach hated RG3, so they drafted the guy they liked. You're in charge of both.
But it's also just when you take a step back, it was a good contingency plan. They played with RG3 till he fell apart, and then they had Kirk Cousins. It worked.
And the other thing is, you're going to have teams that like Davis Mills. If you work him into a few games, people thought, I say it all the time, I won't repeat myself, but I think David Shaw thought with a good year, he could have been a first rounder this last year if he'd been able to play. Remember, he didn't play because of the first game, COVID protocols, false positive, didn't get to practice for the whole next week, only started practicing Friday before their second game against Colorado. Bad in the first half, better in the second half. Maybe you could just be a tradable asset even if you nail the first pick. I think it could be. I don't hate that idea, John.
Fourth feels a little like maybe if you go third overall and go like, does he fall to the sixth?
I'd take him in the fifth if you took. To me, even fifth is fine. But you
Cool.
might be able to get a starting guard in the. Who knows? You can get a good offensive lineman. But I just think he's valuable.
George Kittle went the fifth.
Yeah, but a lot of other people who aren't George Kittle went the fifth too.
Yeah, Sherman.
If the Niners don't go all in, three questions in one mailbag question.
You want to cut them off?
It. Nah, let's go. Why not? If they don't go QB in the first round, what do you want? What position group or BPA? I know you hate drafting corners.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go line. Just go O-line, D-line. Just you can never have enough linemen. You win in the trenches. I know it's cliche. I know it's boring. It's never fun to draft a guard. But ask Colts fans about Quentin Nelson, who I thought fucking Ballard was a crazy SOB for doing the pick. I mean, he drafted a Hall of Famer. So it's just
I'm with you.
Just go line.
Yep.
Just go line.
Even I say that, and I don't ever say that. This is from 833 Capital. Guys, it's been awesome. Is 833 an area code I should know?
I've never heard of it, but feels like a spam area code.
It's been awesome to listen to you guys on a regular basis with your realistic takes among all the drama created by the mainstream media. My question for the mailbag is this. I may be a bit of a conspiracy theorist, but isn't it interesting that all this information coming out about the accusations with Deshaun, only since he caused trouble for the Texans front office by publicly demanding a trade? Does anyone else think there's a chance that there might have been rumors about an issue with massages, but that someone paid a few of these people to come forward with actual allegations? I'm not a Deshaun apologist and believe if he's guilty, the book should be thrown at him, but I do find all the timing highly coincidental. Tell me what you I don't think he's crazy for thinking this, because I think that's kind of what a lot of people thought, and then it went from one accusation to two to three. Now we're in the teens now, and I think it's harder to make the claim that's what's happening.
I think most level-headed human beings that I talk to in the real world, non-social media, have this entire situation red flagged. Now, I think we've seen enough, and just texting with a couple of people in the NFL, like there's just been recent examples of things that you're like, no, this couldn't be, and then it became, where you just never know. But nefarious, just the timing involved. And sometimes I see people arguing, why would the Texans do this to themselves? Right? Why would they ruin the trade value to conspiracy theory? Like, if you're a conspiracy theory guy that think the Texans are leading the charge on this, because I don't know this for a fact. I've just read internet rumors. The lawyer who is representing all the 16 women and growing, I mean, it grows every day, is Cal McNair's neighbor. And my take would be, if you are a conspiracy theory or theorist that thinks the Texans are involved, maybe it's just a double FU. You know that the situation's over with you and him, and you just try to take him down. And I think that most people are just like, I think it's going to be a fascinating, like, to me, it's got two opportunities. I think he's either a serial, just incredibly terrible human being when everyone had thought he was like one of the highest character guys in the league, or the Texans did this. And I don't know if you and I have talked about this on the pod. If they did, like, and Cal McNair is involved, like he will not own the team. They will kick him out of the league. I promise you that.
If they orchestrated this whole thing and it's made up. But I do think there's a third possibility,
That it
which
just kind of goes away and nothing really happens.
no. Because it's gotten so big now that there's going to have to be a conclusion to it. But the third possibility is that that he did these things, that it's real.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But it's real. But the Texans were the ones that made it public, right? Like I think there's two. I think what 833 Capital is suggesting is like what a lot of people have thought. Like this is all made up, and they're paying a bunch of people to make false accusations. But I just thought of it while we're reading this because I know. I mean, you've told me you're around people. Teams have it's like what was the show with Spacey before they cut him out before he ironically enough House of Cards or Billions or like the things in Billions that people were accusing each other of. Sometimes it wasn't that they were accusing each other of something false. It was they were just bringing to light something that somebody had done and covered up. And is it possible that this stuff was something that the Texans were aware of? If it's true, we're aware of it, but it helped cover it up, helped make it go away, and now they have a reason to use a bullet that they wouldn't have otherwise used. I don't know. We're just throwing theories around here. It's not the most responsible thing, but that's a third possibility. I didn't even think of that until we were just going through this. But
yeah,
I just can't.
If it comes out he's involved, I mean, it's going to end his career. Like if he was doing these things that I honestly haven't even read the things he was doing beside the original one that he kind of forced her to give him a blowjob. I don't know what all these other accusations have been. Like I just see the headlines and I'm not even clicking on them anymore. Like I'm waiting for it all to kind of come out. And I saw Rusty Hardin because we had talked about he was going to say something, but really he just said that he just claimed they were all false. They didn't come out with like some evidence, right? It's not like he tweeted screenshots of these people demanding.
John,
money.
If they're all false, there's no way it holds up over. There's no way this thing sticks together for a long time if it's all made up.
Well, to me, if it's all made up, and this is where I get back to how I would have talked. Here's what I do know: that the Watson, kind of crew, him, his agent, his team, they have. And when I say his team, like I mean his people around him. I would be out for blood if I was them. Like I would be. He's rich. I would spend money to find out where the fuck this started, and I would try to was just a hit job by someone random? Because it feels like a little more than that right now, if it is a hit job on the guy.
It's just there are so many women accusing him now.
I know, it's in different states.
Next up.
Not good.
Eagles fan, hey. How are you guys feeling about Philly moving on in the foreseeable future? I'm wanting to say it won't be pretty, but I can't say I don't like most of the roster, granted for biased reasons. Obviously, other than hoping for the team to stay relatively healthy, what kind of pieces do you think Roseman should try and add through the draft? Whether it be moving back for more picks or maybe sending our picks out for a vet. I don't expect them to be heavy hitters in free agency, but also expect something given how he's passed. Huge fan of both podcasts. Would love to hear Annie and all Andy Reid stories you got. LOL. Obviously, this was from, I think this might have been right in the middle of free agency. We got this mailbag. Must have been over the weekend. So,
I mean, I just don't think the division is that good. Like, if the Eagles, all of a sudden, Jalen Hurts is actually okay. They got Miles Sanders. If Jalen Rager's good, they get Dillard back. They got high picks in every round. It's not their coach maybe is decent. I think that's a big question mark, right? Like, is he a dynamic offensive play caller? Is he not? But they're not just some lock to win 3 or 4 games. Who's to say they couldn't win 7, 8 and compete to win the division? Because I don't see a team in that division winning 12, right?
Yeah, and to his point, there are a lot. You just kind of rattle off some of the names. You go Dillard, Johnson, Lane, Kelsey, like you said, Rager.
They have Darius Slay.
Dallas
they
Goddard,
traded for last year,
right? I mean, the Arthega-Whiteside one.
They never traded Ertz. They still got him.
Still got Ertz, Brandon Graham,
Fletcher Cox. Yeah, I mean they got some good, solid players.
Yeah,
I just think their coach is a major. Didn't get off to a little rocky start on his press conference, but as we've always said, it doesn't determine the reason Tom Sula failed was not because he gave a terrible press conference. It was because he didn't know how many timeouts he had a half.
Yes, but his haphazard press conference was an indication, maybe a little bit of the way his mind works, and it just maybe wasn't best situated to be a
like
head coach.
is this guy overwhelmed? I don't know. We're gonna find out.
What do you think about? Let's address it in this way. Would they be insane if they thought they could draft Jamar Chase and they thought he was Julio Jones? They've drafted a second-round receiver. Was Jalen Reagor at the end of the first round or the beginning of the second round?
Yeah, it was like 21 or
so. They've drafted a second-round receiver and then a first-round receiver. Would they be insane if they're sitting there at 6? They're not trading out of that spot, and the best. But
I don't think Ortega-Whiteside just counts anymore. Like he's just a shitty player, right?
For sure. But I'm just saying, like they've used a lot of draft capital on second. You're saying you shouldn't even think that who cares?
Yeah, I think once you blow it up and get a new coach and your team's not great and you just went, I think what was it, 4 wins. It's just we use capital on Ortega-Whiteside. It's like, yeah, Ortega-Whiteside's never playing for me. I don't think you can think like that. Now, I do think you factor in Reagor. Like, can Reagor become a number 1 guy, or do you already feel like, he's probably going to be really good too? You put him with Jamar Chase, Goddard, Miles Sanders, to all of a sudden your offense get pretty electric, right? Just on paper. Say one thing for Reagor. Remember, they put him back punt return. He took that one. I remember watching the Packer game. He fucking ran that thing back. Like, he's not 2 years ago, he was really good at TCU. Now, I don't know, I know people were pretty split in that building. Many wanted them to take the other guy who goes the next pick and turns out to be pretty good in Justin Jefferson. But I think that Howie's big thing last year was speed, right? He wanted to get speed guys. Yeah. And that's why they went with Reagor. That's why they drafted Miles Sanders.
Devontae?
Now, yeah, I mean, could they – that's pretty risky, but I don't know if I could take a 170-pound guy 7th overall. Or 6. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Next up, this is from Vader21. Podcast is fire. No cap. Had an ease-induced hour-long debate about what is America's food, Mexican or Chinese food. Thoughts? ? Then he goes into a whole bunch of soccer-related info. There are 5 major European leagues: French Ligue 1, English Premier League, La Liga, German Bundesliga, Italian Series A. You guys have 5 years to get into it because the World Cup is coming in 2026. USA hasn't ever been great nationally, but they have a lot of really promising young players. I remember when I came one year, it was a World Cup year, and visited you in Philadelphia and working with the Eagles. The World Cup was going on, and we went into a bar that had like a sandwich board outside that said like World Cup shown here, and we went in to watch the World Cup, and there was nobody in there.
Yeah, when he says we got 5 years to get ready, no, just when it comes, I'll watch. Like there's no getting ready.
You got to understand the pods. Okay.
I think Americans' food is like burgers, steaks, salads. Like that to me is America's food. I would say, me personally, I like Mexican more than Chinese. It's just easier on my body, but I love Chinese food. I'm actually sneaky. If I'm going to get Chinese, I'm more likely now, because I would say I'd put them in similar categories, just kind of heavy, a lot of flavors. I tend to go Thai over Chinese.
You know what? I've been same deal. As you age, I think you transition maybe a little.
I like curry, and I just like their chicken noodles.
So good.
With the Chinese. As someone who in the Middlecoff family, every Friday, probably multiple Fridays a month, a lot of my childhood, we ate Chinese on Friday nights. I just, my body can't handle it. I love it.
Chinese every Friday night. That's great.
I mean, it went between Chinese and pizza, but I mean, it was kind of rotated. We ate a lot of Chinese. There was really good Chinese restaurants in Davis, especially South Davis had a good Chinese spot.
I would argue if we had to pick a particular, like a labeled category, I agree, like burgers and that, it would probably, but if
tri-tips, ribs, stuff like that, barbecue.
But I would say Italian. I think I definitely put Mexican ahead of Chinese just because it's something you make at home too, right? People just will make burritos, make tacos for sure.
Yeah, and if you go like, hey, I'm picking up some burritos and tacos, what do you want? He's like, oh, get me some chicken. Like everyone always says, yeah.
So I would rank that ahead as quote unquote America's food. But I might put, the question is, do you put Italian above Mexican on the America's food list? Pasta, pizza, lasagnas. Every mom's
probably depends where you live. I would say like the Northeast, like in Philly, New York, Boston, probably Italian's really high. I think it's just gonna.
If does just making pasta and sauce count as Italian? Because if so, everyone's making Italian.
Yes, people. I mean, when I was growing up, we'd have pasta, whether it be spaghetti, whether it be whatever, at least once a week, because it's an easy one.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah, it's fucking fantastic. Would you go Mexican? So you go Mexican over
I go
Chinese.
Mexican over Chinese, 100%.
Would you go Thai now over Chinese?
I can say, yes. I eat Thai more than I eat Chinese.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. This is from Steamy Phil. This one's labeled Denny Frappuccino. Can't pretend to have watched much of Stanford football last season. Oh, here we go. Davis Mills, legit target for the Niners, Kyle, or just social media buzz? Another Davis Mills question. I told you he's hot, John.
Are you sending these mailbags?
This is not me. These are real. These are real folks, John. Real folks. They want answers. I think Kyle would like him. Yeah. And don't you feel like, I could be wrong, I feel like West Coast NFL teams draft Pac-12 players more than other teams do. You've been on the East Coast with an East Coast team, and you've been a West Coast scout.
I mean, Nick Foles, we drafted him in Philly.
I know. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying I feel like West Coast NFL teams, you'll look up, you'll be like, they drafted 3 NFL guys from the Pac-12? I mean, 3 Pac-12 guys? I don't know. Could be wrong.
Maybe they're more inclined to take role players. Quarterbacks, I think, are pretty universally like, they can go anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. This guy's from Georgia, I think. Alabama.
I think it happens a lot, like in the 7th round. You're like, yeah, we'll just take the dude, the guard from Stanford, right? Arizona.
Is it possible?
Last year, but here's the little running back that I like that ended up from Arizona State that Keim took in the 7th round. I'm like, I like that guy. He ends up at Arizona.
Oh, Eno Benjamin.
Yeah.
Is it possible that it happens, and the reason it would happen is, like, John, you work for the Eagles, you're on the West Coast, but if Howie Roseman's going to randomly, or his number 2 guy going to randomly see anybody, it might be within a driving vicinity.
Well, you're allowed to do a team pro day. So like the Niners and Eagles. I don't know what the rules are this year with Corona, but every year beside Corona years, you can do, if you have like Cal and Stanford, and everyone who grew up within a 60-mile radius who's living in your area, the Niners can have a pro day with all those guys. So you can hang out with them for the day. So like when I was in Philly, it was just kind of local Jersey guys and Penn State guys, but in certain areas, like I would imagine Arizona, Cliff has all the Arizona guys. They work out, they like them, so you're just more inclined to like, oh, I kind of like that tight end. Just take a 7th round flyer on them, right?
You might just talk to their coaches because you might exchange, be at their office one day, that kind of thing. David Shaw, Niners,
100%. Does it feel like Pete takes a lot of UW guys?
I think they take a lot of Pac-12 guys. They'll take corners from Utah a lot, and they took the tight end from UW.
How many head coaches in the Pac-12 could John Schneider text right now without hesitation? All 12? I'd say at least 8.
Yeah.
Right? When he's been the GM there for fucking a decade. Like any coach that's been working for longer than 3 or 4 years. But even like Jimmy Lake, how much time? I bet John Schneider's known Jimmy Lake since he got in Washington.
Jimmy's been in the NFL too.
Yeah.
And he's been around there this whole time when they're drafting he was the DB coach. They're drafting his DBs.
Like if you're a GM in the NFL, here's what I will say. Like, and you don't have like the top 10 guy. Like if you don't have Lincoln's number, if you don't have Saban's number, if you don't now have Mario's number, like if you don't have whoever runs Ohio State, obviously Dabo, like you should have a relationship with those guys. Like if I was the owner and I said, guy, you're my GM, you better know these guys on a personal basis, right? Like it would behoove you over the course of a year to just be like, have your secretary be like, he's going to hit up Clemson, say you're going to be there, and you just would like to have lunch with Dabo.
Yep. Because they know 4 years, 5 years, 6 years out who the best players are and where they are, right?
Honestly, it's going to be a pretty unique advantage for Urban because it does feel like Urban's friend, like all the college guys like Urban, right? Because he was the cream of the crop, and it's kind of like with Nick, they all look up to him, and they always reaching out to him.
That's true.
But like, what that type, information are they truly giving him? It's like, could he ever come back? What if it doesn't work? He's at Texas. I'm giving you all my secrets.
Yeah, but maybe you want to go work for him.
That's the thing with the GM. It's a double whammy for the coach. You're helping your guy, and you're like, well, maybe the GM hires me one day.
Right.
It's probably pretty easy to meet people as a GM, I would imagine. What do you do for a living? Oh, I'm the GM of the Seattle Seahawks. You want to be friends?
Can I swing by the office, check out some of your write-up, your reports?
Yeah.
You mind if I see that personal medical file on your guy? Eddie D3Q Legend. I always feel like some of these names are like license plates. I was trying to figure out what they are. Mailbag. Regarding Jimmy G, would you guys be amenable to keeping number 10, football guy? You call him by his number. Would you guys be amenable to keeping 10 if you alternated every year between disaster to Super Bowl? Because I'll bet he plays 17 games this year and the Niners dominate, man.
Yeah, if you told me the Niners are going to make the Super Bowl, I would advocate keeping Jimmy Garoppolo. Yes.
No, no.
I
The
mean,
question is, would you be disaster? Would you alternate disaster Super Bowl? Would you want to do that? Disaster
yes,
Super Bowl, disaster Super Bowl, disaster Super Bowl.
1,000%. Yes.
I'd do it only if you told me that I wouldn't win a Super Bowl otherwise. Because a year's a long time. Like, a year sucks to be bad at football. Like, the last year.
Guy, if you make the Super Bowl every other year, do you know how sweet the year is, though?
Well, I know, but if the alternative is, well, what's the alternative? I got to know what the alternative is before I can answer that question. Because if the
Do I
alternative
get top
is,
5 picks and get Bosa's every year?
no wonder you're making the Super Bowl. The alternative is, am I in the playoffs every year, but I'm not winning the championship every year? Or is the alternative I'm just a 500 team every year? Because I would take this over being.
He said disaster.
No, he said, would you alternate between being a disaster and being disaster Super Bowl, disaster Super Bowl? Would you want that? Or would you, what's the alternative is my question. Because if the alternative is, I'm like Sean Payton's Saints, I might take that because I'm just relevant for 20 years.
I mean, they've had some pretty big kick in the dick losses.
They have had some bad. Oh, yeah, but that's okay. I can take bad losses. At least my whole year was worth watching.
Yeah, you're saying that, like, even though the last 5 years, they've only got to, I think, if memory serves me correct, one NFC Championship game. They had lost like, the Minnesota Miracle. Kirk Cousins has beat them. But for 4 months, it was like, can we win the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
And the fans were like, we're good.
Right.
Yeah, but they only have one Super Bowl. Do I automatically lose the Super Bowl, or do I just take my chances? Like,
Here's what I would say. For what I do, I don't need the team that we're covering to win the Super Bowl. I just want them to be relevant every year.
Yeah, the Saints would be very, very good for business.
Or the Ravens, right?
Yeah.
The Steelers.
Well, I'd say the Saints sustained winning pretty consistently for about a decade without winning a Super Bowl. Was it worth it?
Yeah, because they got a ring.
What about the Packers?
Yes, that's great.
Probably best case scenario for not making the Super Bowl.
Feels like their lows have been a little like it's been like some really bad. Like this team, what are we doing here? Years.
Only really had the one low though, and the coach got fired. They bounced back pretty quick.
They did. Bryce 88. Is it a mistake for the Niners to waste money on a borderline starting quarterback with backup QBs minus Foles? I always revert to the quote: "If 18 goes down, we're effed, and if we don't practice, effed." Is that a Bill Polian line? Has to be, right?
Yeah, I think it was something with like someone in a draft room said something, and Polian got up about Manning, like worried about drafting a quarterback in the second round. Polian's like, we ain't fucking wasting our time with that.
Mailbag continues. I think either trust Jimmy to stay healthy or replace him, but don't sink over $30 million this year into a QB room with mediocre QBs. Thoughts?
I like that. It's why I'm a big believer. Just let's take a swing in the draft. Let's go get a high-end guy.
When you say let's, you're talking from the Niners standpoint.
I'm saying trade up to get Justin Fields.
Yeah.
I'm in on this. I feel part of this. I'm a believer, and if I get Justin Fields, I'm all in. Now, I will be the first to admit, for every Mahomes and Josh Allen, there are Trubisky's. Like, there is no guarantee, even with as great as Kyle is, it might not work, right?
Yep. Could be bad.
Could be really bad.
But we're sitting here in this moment right now.
He could be overwhelmed.
But part of this is you have to like
Buzz on draft night. Can you imagine the amount of videos and listens we'll get?
I know. But you have to like one of these guys. Now you would argue, well, that's what I said back. I didn't like Deshaun. I'm like, well, you have to like one of these guys if they're good. Can't miss again.
Yeah, let's go do it.
Good question. Thank you, Bryce. Bald Irishman 93 says, "Ham mailbag. # bald is beautiful. Is there any chance that John Gruden resigns post year 5? We know he's not getting fired, but is there a chance he flat out resigns? Love the show. Got to support one of my bald brothers. Bald is beautiful." I'm going to combine this question with another one. Before I get to the other one, though, you want to address Bald is beautiful?
Bald is beautiful. I mean, I'm full agreement.
This from A.O. Arbear, my favorite sport. I'm reading these together because they're both Gruden questions. My favorite sports talk duo since the terrestrial radio days. Radio question for the pod. What do you guys think would be the absolute last straw for Mark Davis to pull the trigger and fire Gruden? It's clear that Gruden has no plan when taking the job. His erratic behavior has led to this team into an abyss of mediocrity. Does Mark Davis have the stones to fire him, or would he need to see? What would he need to see in order to cut his losses and start anew? Love the pod. Keep up the great work. So we got one, would Mark Davis fire him? We got another, is there a chance he flat out resigns because we know he's not getting fired?
Well, let's use the 5-year mark as a benchmark. Let's not even count the first 2 years. If I said in year 3, year 4, and year 5, when they have added a playoff team, he does not make the playoffs, even if we're giving him a pass for the first 2 years, he got 2 years to kind of ramp up to head into like this 3-year run of trying to make an extra playoff. We're not asking him. No one is holding him to the standard like he's got to win an AFC West. No one, even the diehard Raider fans, like, yeah, the Chiefs are just going to fucking win it every year. No one even is thinking that. It's like, can he just get the 7th seed? The 7th seed guy for a team that's made the playoffs one time in 18 years would be applauded. He would get a lot of credit. If he goes after year 5 and doesn't make the 7th seed in year 3, obviously he missed it in year 3. If he misses it this year, which a lot could happen with the draft. I guess technically they could still trade for Russell Wilson. But if he doesn't trade for Russell Wilson, we got a decent idea, give or take, his team. It's going to be pretty hard. Like, last year, you and I think a lot of people thought like he was on a path to compete to make the playoffs. Now it's like, God, I mean, some of these teams are better than we thought, and clearly the Chiefs aren't going away. Like, I think it's going to be difficult. Like, I'm not going to pick them to make the playoffs. I think they're going to be right around that 500 mark probably again. But then all of a sudden we're multiple years in with the extra playoff team and he's missed. And is it like last year where he's 2 or 3 games out with an extra game now to play? If he goes going after year 5 without making the playoffs, that will have felt like an eternity, won't it? For a guy that just wears emotions on the sleeve or works all this long, like has up at fucking 2 a.m. to work, like I feel like he might just be over it. Like the next 2 years to just not make the playoffs, he'll be viewed as just a full-blown failure, right? I mean, I think people are already kind of talking about him like that. But if he has 2 more years without making the playoffs, the heat on him, which heat, what does that even mean? I just mean like everywhere John Gruden goes, people just look at him like, that guy's kind of full of shit.
But I think the question is, would that be enough for John Gruden to either quit or for Mark Davis to fire him? I'd be surprised if Mark Davis fired him after 5 years, but it's, part of that is he's got a 10-year contract. So if he had a normal NFL contract, this would be a different conversation because they'd have to make a decision after like year 4, right? After this year. If you had a 6-year NFL contract, the next couple of years, it'd be like, is he getting an extension or is he not coming back? Because you're not going to coach year 6 on the last year of a contract and all like that.
I'd even say if it was 7, let's say it was 7, like that would have been a really long contract. Mark Davis gave him 10 years, 7 years. He was going into 4. It would be start getting into the weird territory this year, right? 7's pretty long, but
yeah, it's hard
4,
for
5.
me to, I mean, when we're talking about a 10-year contract, it's hard for me to close my eyes and imagine it even being pressurized right now. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Like under any other circumstance, we'd be talking about hot seat type stuff, and that's not even anywhere near the conversation right now. So I've thought since he got hired, if he doesn't make it 10 years, him resigning would be more likely than him getting fired.
I would imagine this, though. If you take a decade off, and most guys in his shoes have proven, and we've seen a lot in recent memory, they just stay away. They become rich. They just don't do it. Clearly, Gruden never had just like he was good at the media thing, and he became a unique media figure, but he wanted to coach, and I think he likes coaching. He likes being in the fire. If he were to quit, it basically just means he completely failed. And while I think ESPN would gladly take him back and Riddick would be fucked, it wouldn't quite be the same, man. I think they'd be like, yeah, Gruden's a great personality on TV, but it's like, that guy's kind of, everything he says just kind of full of shit.
What about this scenario?
Do you agree there? Like, would it ruin his TV brand, or is it like he's just such a big TV brand?
It depends. Is he winning 4 games? Because he's a 500-ish situation.
Well, he's 19 and 29 since he's back.
Yeah, but I mean, like right now, I have a hard time seeing them being 5 games under 500 next year.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I don't
think
he
go like 7-10, 7-10, or something like that.
It's not good, but it's not bad enough to be like this guy can't coach football. Like I don't think anyone's saying that about him.
Yeah, but I just mean he would immediately get $10 million, right, to coach, to go on ESPN.
Well, what do you think of this? Is there a scenario where he's not fired, doesn't quit, but they force him to hire it? Like a GM gets hired that has personnel control. Like John, you're the coach.
I think that's pretty difficult. I think that's pretty difficult.
I know it is.
I'd be surprised if that happens.
Okay, next up.
A lot of Gruden.
This one's Afro Jordan 3. Grew up in West Coast sports fit. Grew up in California my whole life, and when I moved to Arizona in 2017, these guys kept me plugged into my California sports teams. Something missing from a lot of traditional sports shows. Guys usually calm and level-headed in his takes, while John has just enough Central Valley Turlock Storm the Capitol vibes to remind me of home and keep me entertained, but not too much to make me want to turn it off in disgust. He has some of the erraticism he criticizes Gruden for, but just like Gruden is entertaining. And while the Raiders aren't the most buttoned down, organization to say the least, there are some things they criticize the Raiders for that they'd give the Niners a pass for. But for the most part, they're great, unbiased place to get your sports news. Anyway, if the Raiders sign a veteran right tackle and have a line of Miller, James, Good, and a vet, do they still go O-line pick at 17, or are they better off going defense like Barmore from Alabama or one of the linebackers?
Okay, let me state something really quick. Relative to the rest of the space of people that talk about sports, I am dramatically more conservative. I am very, very fiscally conservative. Socially, I'm about as liberal as you can get. On the scale of things, I'm middle of the road. Second thing, you couldn't pay me to protest anything unless it involved like my family. Politically, I have nothing in common with people that storm the Capitol. I have nothing in common with people that that's not me. So, like, I know some people from the Valley. I'm not, like, I would never storm the fucking Capitol. I wouldn't waste, mainly because I wouldn't waste my fucking time. Now, does that mean, like, I feel bad for Nancy Pelosi got her office ruined that basically we pay for? I do not. But if you think I'm wearing fucking some hat and running in there, you got the wrong dude picked. So, again, like, I think middle class conservative or whatever, yeah, relative to the radical media for sure, but I not offended by that comment, but a little bit, because I just seeing some of those guys like, no, I would never. You couldn't pay me to do that. You probably could, but the number would have to be astronomical, where it's like I would make so much money it wouldn't matter if I got arrested or was on the front of the news channels. What was the other part?
Also compared you have some of the erraticism you criticize Gruden for.
Yeah, but again, like, and this is what I say about a lot of people, politicians, for example. I speak now for a living. Like, what I speak now, I hang my hat. I hate hypocrisy. It's why I hate so many politicians. But I think one thing I'm troubled with people in our space is they're very cultish with politics. I don't trust any of them. Like, that's one thing universally I feel very comfortable with. Where the sports media, for example, is just they only lean one side, and they're very loud when that side is loud, but when things are bad on that side, they just stay quiet. Like, I think they're all frauds. My erraticism, like, I don't live an erratic life, but when I talk about stuff and I get excited, maybe I say something that's kind of all over the place, but I don't feel like I live a crazy erratic life. I mean, I eat the same things.
No, I don't
do the
think
same things.
Yeah, I think that comment is probably more just about
the storm. I'm a little offended by the storm the Capitol vibe. You know?
That's an offensive thing to say.
Yeah, it's an offensive thing to say for sure.
What about the Raiders? You know what I appreciate about this is
I don't even know if I can comment after that. That one hurts.
I think.
Do you see some of the bios on the people that stormed the Capitol? Like, these people fucking need to get a life.
Yeah, well, I have not seen the bios, but I'm guessing if you read me one of the bios, I could have guessed the bio. Should the Raiders sign a veteran right tackle and have a line of Miller, Incognito, James, Good, and a vet, or do they still go O-line pick at 17? I don't think they go O-line at 17. I think you got to go defense at 17.
Haberman, give us your voting record right now before we finish this mailbag.
I absolutely will not.
The irony is I'm like Kaepernick. I don't even vote.
I don't know if you get credit for that.
Well, I'm not. I'm saying that's an indictment to me. Like, I would say people that are usually outspoken storm the Capitol are like they're picking a side or whatever. I have nothing in common with the political cult. That's one thing. I don't, because I just think it's. And sometimes this is why I want to deactivate Twitter. I think Twitter can become like words are so powerful, even though nothing changes. Like, I've lived in California most of my life. All these things get said all the time. It's like, ah, and then you just go out and you just see people living, and it's like, what the fuck? Why do people get so caught up over words?
Well, I've said about Twitter for how many years now?
But what I'm using Twitter, I'm saying politicians have really used that, and obviously Donald did too. But the left and the right, they use it. It's like, it's such theater. It's also fake. I'm a for the people guy. I have a lot of Democrat friends, a lot of Republican friends. People, just people. Storm the Capitol, though. I would not do that. Too much respect for an office that we picked.
Afro Jordan, thanks for listening. I've never seen John get offended.
That's an offensive thing to say.
I've never seen you get offended. I don't think you don't get offended very easily.
Well, that was offensive.
All right. See that there's a reason I knew better than to make that the last one. Day Dayawa. Hey guys, love what you do. Here's a hypothetical. If Andrew Luck came out of retirement right now, how would the Colts handle the situation? Do they cut Carson, keep him as a backup, or trade him possibly to a very late draft pick to a team such as the Jets, maybe crushing his confidence in the process? Interested to hear y'all's take. So this is something you've been pushing for, that Andrew, you should call Andrew Luck and get him out of book club and bring him back from wherever he is. If Andrew Luck said today, I'm back, signed 12, what would they do with Carson Wentz?
My guess is Chris Ballard is such a high-level guy that they had serious conversations with him over the last 12 months. Even once they acquired Rivers and knew it was a short-term deal, they felt pretty comfortable. The answer is he ain't coming back anytime soon. That's why they would trade for Carson Wentz, right? Because they would rather have Andrew Luck, even retired, coming back than Carson Wentz.
But I also think, call me crazy, Luck, if Luck said I'm back, I don't think you immediately make a decision of what to do with him and Wentz. Like, is there a guarantee that Luck is just ready to be a great NFL quarterback again?
No.
That he's athletically anything. I mean,
he's 31 years old. He's not 26.
Like, I'm not positive you would just get off of Wentz and keep Luck in that scenario.
But I'm also not positive that maybe what if this happened in a year and Wentz had a good year? What if you could trade Wentz?
Yeah, but if Wentz had a good year, you might just keep Wentz and trade Luck. If you're like, this worked, we like it, he's younger, we'll just do it with this guy, and somebody else can figure out if Andrew Luck's got anything left in the tank.
Trade him to the Patriots?
Yeah, I mean, no, but yeah
you could
they'd want him.
I think you would trade him somewhere to the NFC.
You trade him to the Eagles.
Eagles. I think Washington. He'd have a market.
He would definitely have a market.
He'd have a big market. What if you're the Bucks and like Tom's like, this is my last year? Wouldn't you trade a couple first-round picks for him if he was going to retire or something?
Do you think he'd get 2 1s if it was just like no one's seen Andrew Luck?
I think
he weighs 180 pounds.
Well, to me, if he was coming back, he'd have to be healthy. I mean, Carson Palmer retired, for basically a year and got 2 1s. Now, it was Al Davis at the end, but still.
Yeah.
Was it Al Davis at the end or Hugh Jackson? I don't even remember. We got 2 1s.
It was Hugh, right?
Yeah.
Al might have been. Also not Al? Apologies
I don't know.
Timeline.
Yeah.
All right, those are all the mailbag questions. Good mailbag, everybody. That was a big one.
Yeah.
Subscribe, leave your question in the iTunes review.
I'm not a Storm the Capitol guy.
You're rattled.